Chris Hughton, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
No, you're very welcome.
So, you've had a long and distinguished career as a player, domestically and internationally, and now as a manager. You've experienced racism, I know, as a player, or you did. So the question I wanted to ask you is, how far do you think the game has progressed since you were playing? And if there has been any change, what's driven that?
Well, there is no doubt that there has been change. Some very good campaigns that have been involved in the game to eradicate racial abuse, and particularly, the biggest area would be, of course, what we would have experienced on the touchline and from sections of crowds. So that would probably be the most visual aspect, because that was something that was a weekly occurrence for myself and so many other players. Of course, what is allowed and what is not allowed, and even what we would have experienced on the football pitch. And credit to the game and to the FA, that's something that they have really clamped down on, and we have seen players being suspended, and we are seeing players being punished for that. The game overall is a more comfortable place for supporters to go and to not hear racist abuse on the touchline. But of course, what has come very much to the fore at the moment is social media. Very much an increase again in the type of abuse and abusive language that we would have heard very much in the past. But I think we are going through a period now where I think people are far more conscious about the things that they say, and of course I think the campaigns that are involved in the game, that have been involved in the game, have played a big part in that.
I think you quoted the Formula One driver, Karen Chandok. It's not enough to be non-racist, you've got to be actively anti-racist. For you, what's behind that statement?
I think probably it sort of stemmed from, and as I say, as you get older, you like to think that you get a bit more worldly, and I think probably it was more about everybody being more proactive than sort of reactive. Because what I'm seeing at the moment, and of course certainly regarding the Black Lives Matter campaign and what that has done to, I think, opens people's eyes in the game, and of course then it becomes about racism and prejudices in the game. Not just about Black Lives Matter campaign, but generally what people and players are experiencing, and people in the game, are experiencing. And what we are finding since then, and certainly over this last year, there are a lot of people speaking and answering questions, because it's been on the forefront of so many people's mind that probably haven't spoken about it before, but because of present times, they are asked the question. And even, if we are looking at employees, looking at their structures, what structure that they have in place that really encourages, a multicultural thinking.
Yes.
So I think it's more about, thinking about it, as opposed to, just answering a question. And of course, the answers to the question is of yes, of course, we are not racist, and we don't think that way. And I think it's just about being more proactive.
Walking the talk, that makes sense to me. Lastly, really, I just wanted to be able to ask you, if I may, a question. A very dear friend of us at the Holocaust Museum, who's a Holocaust survivor, called Simon Winston. He lives in the area, and he is a Nottingham Forest fan. I want to take you back to 1991, because that's the area of his question. He says he's been a fan of the Forest since the 1950s, when he made it over here from Poland. And his question for you, Chris, is this. At the 1991 Spurs-Forest Cup final at Wembley, I experienced anti-Semitic chanting. Chanting only started at the end of the match, when Spurs scored the winning goal. It was the Forest supporters who were involved. As a Jew and a Forest supporter, what should or could I have done?
Yeah, no, firstly, Simon, I'm incredibly sorry for what you went through in that period or that particular time. And if we were in today, and certainly there would be procedures in place, I think one, certainly it would have been a case of notifying the nearest stewards to identify those that made their comments. I think it would be making it known. It would be writing to the club with your disgust of what you had heard. But I think probably at the time, those options weren't probably available, and the option that Simon took was to come away from that. And I don't think there would be anybody that could argue with that, because that's very much how Simon felt. That's the emotion that he felt, and the disgust that he felt at that particular time, that he took the actions. And I'm aware that I think that Simon got an award, I think, not so long ago. So our congratulations, and my congratulations to him. And it would be a pleasure to meet him.
Ah, that's great. I'm sure he'll be thrilled to hear that. One last question. Is there anyone that comes to mind? I'd love to ask you, given that this year's theme for Holocaust Memorial Day is Be a Light in the Darkness. Are there any particular young leading lights?
Jordan Henderson, I think, has been very much at the forefront of what a lot of the captains have done as regards the taking of the knee. Raheem Sterling, of course, I think one. I think for particularly for somebody that has gone through the experience that he's gone through, with social media and the press, and so I think speaking the way that he has, and probably also Marcus Rashford. And Marcus Rashford maybe more so because it's non-football. To take on a campaign in the way that he has, and to use his standing in the game and his name to such effect, I think, has been outstanding. And this is somebody that I think that we could all look at and think, this lad is just a regular lad.
Well, listen, they are all three of them. They are great and inspiring role models, but so are you. It's very easy to get angry, and unfortunately people don't always react well to that, but you put your point across with decency and calm, and it's the very antithesis of all the kind of nastiness that goes on social media. So please keep up the good work, and I wish you all the best. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to that invitation.
Come to the museum. Yep, absolutely. Can't wait to have you over, and all the team.
Look forward to seeing you.